Struggling team. Is it the same speaker?
Craig Rochelle.
Oh, different one. Okay, thank you.
Ready. Fire.
Oh, wait.
Aim.
Struggle. How are you supposed to struggle?
It's on the AOI sessions.
Thank you.
This is the Craig Rochelle Leadership Podcast.
Again this month, thank you for being a part of our leadership community. We honestly believe that when the leader gets better, everyone gets better. Maybe you're new with us. If you are, we release a brand new teaching on the first Thursday of every single month. I would love to encourage you and invite you to subscribe. You can subscribe on iTunes or on YouTube. And I also want to say thank you to those of you that are rating or reviewing the podcast. It makes a big difference, and if this is helpful to you and you can spare a minute or so to write a review or to share on social media, invite others to be a part, that would mean the world to me. I do understand that a lot of you are going through this teaching with your teams. I want to encourage you on this particular one, especially. I think it could be incredibly helpful to gather your core leaders around you and talk about some of the issues. I think it can be really helpful. So let me tell you what we're going to do today. I'm going to answer a couple of questions. If you have any questions at all, you can always email me at leadership@life.church. Maybe you have suggestions of what you'd like to hear about, questions, comments, or ideas. Email me anytime, leadership@life.church. Also, if you want the show notes, we'll be happy to send you those show notes every single month. Just let us know that you'd like them. I'm going to answer two of your questions. Then we're going to dive into some new content. At the end, we're going to review the content so it will hopefully stick better. And then I want to bring some application questions. This is probably the most important thing that we do, is we take what we learn and then we try to apply it. So hang with me to the end. I'll try to work hard to keep the content impactful and also do it in 25 minutes or less. Let's dive into one of the questions that came in. This was from someone who's anonymous. Anonymous is also non-confrontational. So someone asked this question: because I'm not a confrontational person, I'm having to battle my desire not to hurt anyone's feelings and yet do what's best for the organization. I realize that I'm being stretched and growing in this role, but it's hard for me to practice or grow in my leadership on real people. What are some steps that you would suggest that can help me overcome this struggle? Well, let me just say, first of all, this is a very common struggle. Very few people are naturally confrontational. In fact, if you're naturally confrontational, you're probably not a very nice person. So let's just recognize this is a common issue.
Right.
Part of the problem, I believe, is that confrontation gets a bad rap. The word confrontation, it almost has a bad feel to it. Maybe if we rebrand the idea, it might be a little bit easier to get your mind around. Let's reframe the idea of confronting, and let's consider it more coaching or simply telling the truth. If you follow my logic, you'll see why confronting others is actually a really good thing to do. What is telling the truth? Telling the truth is one of the most loving things that you can do, right? If you don't tell the truth, that's not loving. Telling the truth is loving. What is confronting? Well, confronting is simply telling somebody the truth. Therefore, confronting somebody with the right attitude or the right heart or the right motives is actually a very loving thing to do. So, in any organization, if you care about somebody, you're going to care enough to tell them the truth. If you care about your organization, you're going to care enough to confront. Now, knowing that might help give you the courage to do the right thing, but it still may be difficult to do. How do we learn to confront people? What I would suggest is that you actually role play this. This is something I've done many times, is find somebody that I know and trust and actually talk it through. What are you going to want to do? Well, you're going to want to start with one positive sentence, and then you want to get into the meat of what you want to say. So you don't want to, shoot the breeze for 10 minutes or so. That's not fair. You're going to get right to the heart of it and say, what I'm about to tell you may not be easy to hear, but it's because I love you and value you, and then you tell them the truth. And then you get into whatever the issue is. When you're late all the time, it impacts, it looks bad on the organization. It shows people that you don't care. Maybe you're not performing with excellence and therefore it hurts team morale. Whatever it is, you tell them. And then you suggest the right behavior. Here's what you can do to improve. And then you ask them, do they understand it? And it's really simple, but it just takes practice. So sit down with a person and just walk through it and say, what I'm about to tell you may not be easy to hear, but I'm telling you this because I really care and value about you. I care about you. And then point out whatever the behavior is. Bring a course of correction in your explanation, and then ask them, do they understand, and ask them to restate it. And if you practice doing that again and again and again on someone who is a real person, but it's not a real game time confrontation, what you're going to do is find yourself becoming much more comfortable in confronting, and that will help you to strengthen your organization and help people get better. Let's deal with another question. Cindy asked, what advice would you give to someone taking her first leadership role? Well, Cindy, if you just got promoted into a leadership role, congratulations. 3 thoughts that come to mind, very simple. Number 1, be a student. Number 2, love those you lead. And number 3, lead by example. My best advice would be this: be a student. Cindy, your ability to learn is one of your most important qualities that any leader will ever have. Leaders are learners. The fact that you're asking that question shows you want to learn. Even after you've been a leader for 40 years, what are you? You're still a student, always learning. Number 2, love those that you lead. The good news is you don't need a title, you don't need position, you don't need power, you don't need a degree in order to lead. What you need is you need trust. You need to care about people. I've said this before, people will follow a leader with a heart faster than a leader with a title. Care about the people that you lead. And number 3, lead by example. In other words, simply be the type of leader that you would love to follow. I love what Coach John Wooden says. He says the most powerful tool you have in leadership is your own personal example. Be a student, love those that you lead, and lead by example. Let's dive into new content today. The subject I want to talk about is this. I want to talk about strengthening a struggling team. Strengthening a struggling team. Let's talk about teamwork for a moment, and then we'll dive into the content. If you want to be incrementally better, be competitive. If you want to be exponentially better, be a team. Let me say it again. If you want to be incrementally better, be competitive, be all about you, try to win. If you want to be exponentially better, be a team, because there's no limit to what can be accomplished when it doesn't matter who gets the credit. Let's be honest, there's nothing like playing on a winning team. If you've ever been in an organization where you're with very talented people, there's a clear vision and a defined strategy, people are passionate, everyone's using their gifts to make a difference, that's a place you're going to love to work, you're going to be energized, and there are few things more fun than being on a passionate, focus-driven team. On the other hand, there are few things more frustrating than being on an apathetic, lazy, and disengaged team. Unfortunately, the latter is much more common than the former. It's so common in our workplace today to be on teams that just kind of exist, where people are just doing their job, but they're not doing their job with others toward a common vision. In fact, what do you see on a struggling team? You're going to see a team that's lacking in vision. You're going to see team members that are discouraged. You may see a culture that's unhealthy or perhaps even toxic. What happens? Problems go unaddressed. Everybody knows their problems, but nobody does anything about them. You don't feel like you're winning, or you don't even know how to measure success in the organization, and it's no fun at all. Let's talk about teamwork. What is teamwork? Andrew Carnegie said, teamwork is the ability to work together toward a common vision. It's the fuel that enables common people to achieve uncommon results. I love that definition. If you were going to ask me to boil it down to its simplest form, what is a team? This would be my definition. Very simple. A team is a group of people gathered to reach a common goal. That's what it is. We all agree this is what we're trying to do. It's a group of people gathered to reach a common goal. What do you see, though, in most workplaces today? You see a group of people in the same place, doing their own thing, thinking about their own concerns. There's a big disconnect between what a team is and what people often do. And you'll hear it even in their language or what they think about. For example, when they come to work, what do they think? If they're thinking like most people, their thought is, what do I need to do today? In other words, I have to go to meetings, do this project, respond to emails. What do I have to do today? A team member shows up and thinks intuitively, what do I get to do today that moves the mission forward? What do I get to do today that works toward a common goal? Because the reality is an unhealthy team is task-driven. A healthy team is goal-oriented. And this is really important. On an unhealthy team, they're task-driven. They're just doing their job. But on a healthy, productive team, we're goal-oriented. We're working in the same direction. And you'll see kind of the differences. On an unhealthy team, management wants compliance. They don't want creativity. In fact, if you are innovative, you tend to be punished. Who succeeds on an unhealthy team? Generally, mediocre people. It's safest not to take risks. It's safest to blend in. Survival is supreme, and it's every man for himself. If you're on a team like that right now, chances are you have a moderate to a high level of frustration because you know there's something so much better. As a leader, what we need to do is we need to be honest about the state of our team. And what I want to do is, first of all, list 5 qualities of ineffective teams. Anytime you've got an ineffective or a struggling team, you very likely have one or more likely multiple of these qualities on a struggling team. Anytime there's a team that's not winning, what are you going to see? You're going to see one or more of these qualities. You're going to have a team that is void of vision. We don't know what the win is. There's no clear and defined strategy. The team is void of vision. Number 2 is you've got leaders who deflect responsibility. Not my fault, it's their fault, somebody else's fault. It's the market's fault, it's the economy's fault, it's somebody else's fault. Number 3 is you've got team members who resist accountability. Don't tell me what to do, they resist accountability. Number 4 is you've got team members who avoid conflict. And number 5, there are leaders who withhold trust. On any struggling team, you'll see one or more of these issues. There's going to be void of vision, those who deflect responsibility, those who resist accountability, those who avoid conflict, or those who withhold trust. So as a leader, you may say, okay, well, we have these problems, so what are we going to do? We've got to get the team healthy. We've got to get everybody on a fun pace. So what are we going to do? One of the most common things I've seen is that a leader says, let's go have a team development day. In other words, let's go ride go-karts. Let's go do trust falls. Let's go do some kind of adventure somewhere else. And while there's nothing wrong with that, I need to be really clear, that doesn't solve the root issues of struggling teams. What do we need to understand? Anytime a team is struggling, it's because there's an unhealthy cycle that's going on. There's always an unhealthy cycle in unproductive or unhealthy teams. And as a leader, what we need to do is we have to break the cycle. In fact, let me show it to you. In fact, if you're listening, I'll describe it as clearly as I can.
It's a habit.
On this little chart, this is the unhealthy cycle of unhealthy teams. What you've got is you've got wrong actions. People are doing the wrong thing, and that's why we have an unhealthy team. When there's wrong actions, the cycle continues with no confrontation. People are avoiding conflict. They're not taking responsibility. So the wrong actions are never confronted. Because they're not confronted, there's casting blame. It's your fault, it's her fault, it's his fault, it's their fault, it's somebody else's fault. That leads to negative assumptions. Well, no one really cares. We can't really improve. Why are we doing this? And that leads to more wrong actions, and this is the negative cycle. In fact, some of you may recognize at some point under your leadership, this is what was going on. There were wrong actions. You as a leader weren't confronting. People are casting blame, they're negative assumptions, and the negative cycle continues. On the other hand, what we need to do is we need to break the cycle. Anytime we've got a struggling or unhealthy team, we need to break the cycle with productive confrontation. And this is what the different graph looks like. There's wrong actions. And so what do? Is we come in and we confront the wrong actions. We do it with the right attitude, the right spirit. We're going to talk a little bit more about how to do that. Then, if we confront in the right attitude, our team's going to start accepting responsibility. Okay, it is my fault. We can do better. There's an issue here. The leaders recognize they haven't done everything. We're all on the same page now. Accepting responsibility moves to positive assumptions. We're all telling the truth here. We're getting things done. We're not casting blame. We're recognizing what we need to do to bring improvement. That leads to productive actions, and suddenly you've got a more positive cycle. Anytime there's a negative cycle, what we have to do as a leader is we have to come in and interrupt the cycle. We do it with productive confrontation. It's our role as a leader. We cannot expect anyone else to do this. Productive confrontation, people start accepting responsibility, then there's positive assumptions, and then there are productive actions. Let's talk about how do we do this as a leader. If we assess our team is not quite as healthy as it should be, ability, expect anyone else to do this. Productive confrontation, people start accepting responsibility, then there's positive assumptions, and then there are productive actions. Let's talk about how do we do this as a leader. If we assess our team is not quite as healthy as it should be, and let me tell you right now, that's generally the way it is. Teams do not drift toward health by accident. They are shaped towards strength on purpose. Teams never drift to health by accident. They're strengthened on purpose. And so over time, the default is for a team to become less productive and more unhealthy if we don't bring consistent and constant correction. How do we strengthen a struggling team? The first thing is this. We're going to diagnose the root of the dysfunction. This is really, really important. We're going to diagnose the root of the dysfunction. Why? Because you cannot change what you cannot define. As leaders, most of the time what we tend to do, and I know I do this, is we tend to focus on the symptoms, not on the root issue. For example, you might say, well, our business isn't growing. Okay, that isn't the problem. That's the symptom of the problem. There's a reason why your business isn't growing. You might say our church is aging. You know, the average age used to be 50, now it's 56. That's not the problem. That's the symptom of the problem. We have to get to the root of the problem. You know, our team is negative and critical, okay? That's not the real, why is the team negative and critical? We as a leader have to diagnose the root of the issue. I went through this kind of little exercise with 26 of the top leaders in our organization, and this is what was really interesting. What I told them is, let's assume that we've got a few team members that are checked out during meetings. So maybe we've got 8 people in a meeting, and we've got 3 team members that are checked out. That's a problem. What is the root cause of this problem? And here's what happened. 26 of my top leaders gave me reason after reason after reason that all pointed to the people being the problem. There were 8 different team members that responded, the people are the problem. The 9th answer, finally, one of my team members said, well, maybe we as the leader are the problem. And I want you to think about this, because this is so true. Whenever there's a problem, we tend to point the finger somewhere else. As a leader, we have to accept responsibility that, generally speaking, to some degree, often a large part, we are the root cause of the problem. For example, let's just walk through the exercise. Let's say we've got eight people on our team. 3 of the people are constantly checked out during meetings. What could be the problem? Well, it could be that they're all 3 having personal problems. Not likely, but it could be. Okay? Do I have any part of that to own? Well, if there's 3 team members of mine going through significant personal issues and I don't know, guess what? I'm actually a part of the problem. I should be engaged in the lives of my team members. So ultimately, the root issue points back to me. Let's say that those 3 team members don't understand the direction, or they don't feel like they can succeed. Is it their fault or my fault? Well, maybe it's partially their fault, but ultimately, maybe it's my fault for not clearly communicating the direction. Maybe the meeting is unnecessary, unproductive, or a waste of time. Maybe those 3 people are the sharpest people in the room. The other 5 are just kind of the mediocre ones hanging on. And the reality is I'm boring them like crazy. And ultimately it points back to me. I'm not creating an environment that's helpful or productive. Maybe those 3 team members have a bad attitude. That's partially their responsibility. It could be partially mine. Why? Because I tolerated it and I didn't address it months and months ago. So often we need to recognize, as the leader, the root cause of the problem more often than not points toward us. Diagnose the root cause of the problem and recognize this is so difficult. As leaders, we need to understand more often than not, the root lies somewhere close to our own leadership. Diagnose the root cause of the problem. I'd love to talk more about how to do that. We made another episode, but this is really important. Don't just focus on the symptom. Ask yourself, why is this occurring? And more often than not, it's going to be a reflection of our own leadership. Then we recognize what the root issue is. We're going to confront the root issue. You cannot correct what you won't confront. We're going to confront. In fact, we answered a question about that earlier. It's the loving thing to confront. It's the right thing to confront. It's the healthy thing to confront. It's unhealthy to avoid behavior, and you can never have a good team unless you're confronting wrong behaviors. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to point out the wrong behavior. Now, this is important. We're not attacking people. We're talking about behavior. We have to be real clear on this. Where I'm not coming after you as a person, what I'm doing is we're addressing this behavior. Then we may correct the person privately, or we may actually correct the behavior publicly. And this matters a lot. There's a time to correct publicly because it actually occasionally will do the offender a favor to let everyone else know that this behavior has been addressed publicly. No one is wondering, and everyone understands that as a leader, we're not going to tolerate this on the team. We have higher standards. We're going to offer the person a path to improvement, and then when they improve, we're going to celebrate. If they don't improve, guess what? We're going to remove them because we're not going to tolerate underperformers, bad attitudes, or divisiveness on our team because our team is moving in a healthy direction. So let me review these big thoughts. If you've got an ineffective or struggling team, here's what you're going to see. You're going to see a team that is void of vision. You're going to see team members that tend to deflect responsibility. You're going to see team members who resist accountability. You're going to see those who avoid conflict. And you're going to see leaders who withhold trust. What do we have? We've got a problem. We've got a destructive cycle. So we need to correct the destructive cycle. Whenever there's wrong actions, why are there wrong actions? Because there's no confrontation. Because there's no confrontation, there's casting blame, there's negative assumptions, there's more wrong actions. What we're going to do is we're going to interrupt the cycle. We're going to confront in a productive way. And as we do so, suddenly we're all going to accept responsibility. Then there's going to be positive assumptions, and then we're going to see productive actions. What do we do as a leader when we've got a struggling team? We diagnose the root of the dysfunction. Most leaders focus on symptoms. The great leaders are going to focus on the root of the problem. Then we're going to confront the root issue. You cannot correct what you're unwilling to confront. We're not attacking people. We're attacking the wrong type of behavior. Bottom line is, let me just say this. As leaders, we have to have the courage to admit that we're very likely a part of the root problem. I think it's John Maxwell who says, everything rises and falls on leadership. Whenever things are going well, it almost always is because there's a great leader. When things are struggling, we look to the leader. Everything rises and falls on leadership. If there's a team that's not performing well, we own it. It could be that we've allowed the wrong team members to be on the team. It could be that we're not addressing the problems. It could be that we're not correcting the wrong type of behavior. But we need to recognize, more often than not, we are the root cause. Diagnose the root and address the root. 3 questions, and these are really important. Question number 1. On a scale of 1 to 10, how healthy and strong is your team and why? On a scale of 1 to 10, how healthy and strong is your team and why? Now, here's the fun part. Now ask your team and let them respond anonymously. How healthy is your team and why? You put your answer. Now ask your team and let them respond anonymously. And here's my guess. More often than not, the leader tends to score the team higher than the rest of the team. If there's a significant disconnect, guess what? We have a problem. We need to get to the root of the problem and see why the team isn't as healthy in the eyes of our team members as it is in ours. And the reality is because we often don't have the clearest objective view of what's really going on in the organization. Scale of 1 to 10, how healthy is the team and why? Now ask your team. Number 2, what quality is the weakest on your team? This is super important. Okay, on any struggling team, they're void of vision. If your team is not doing well, guess what? It could be because you're not pointing toward the win. This is who we are. This is what we're standing for. Here's our vision and the clear and defined strategy to get there. It could be that there's deflecting of responsibility. Not my fault, it's everybody else's fault. It could be that you're resisting accountability. Well, it's their department and you can't tell me what to do and this is the way we do it here. We've always done it this way. That could be the problem. It could be they're avoiding conflict. Everybody knows there's a problem going on and nobody's talking about the problem. That is a very big problem. It could be that there's withholding trust. We're not vulnerable with each other. We're not extending trust. We're not cooperating. We're competing with one another. This is really important. Define, of these 5, which one or two is weakest on your team. Are you void of vision? Are you deflecting responsibility? Are you resisting accountability? Are you avoiding conflict? Or are you withholding trust? Number 3, super important. Once you've named a problem area or a symptom, what is the root cause of the problem? Once you've named the problem, what is the root cause of the problem? And here's where the rubber meets the road. What will you do to address the root? You may say, Craig, that's complicated. Leaders deal with complicated issues. I'm not sure what to do. Well, you're the leader. Keep asking questions. Keep pressing in. Keep doing what leaders do. You are where you are because you have the gift of leadership. You're not perfect, but you're getting better every single day. Diagnose the root and lead to where things are supposed to be. That's what great leaders do. When the leader gets better, everyone gets better. Thank you again for joining us. I'll be with you again this time next month. Thank you for sharing on social media. Leaders, be yourself. Why? Because people would rather follow a leader who's always real than one who's always right.
Hey, thanks again for joining us here at the Craig Groeschel Leadership.
Who's on there?
You ready to go? Tina.
Ready.
We're ready? I didn't hear him say that. Oh, okay.
Do you want through?
I do.
I'll let you through. Thank you.
So, I got a question.
You got a question?
Yes. What do you think my question is?
Your question is on a scale from 1 to 10.
Nope.
Okay.
Close. That'd be my next question. But my question is, what...
Stood out to you.
Yes. You got it, Confront. So what stood out to y'all?
Y'all was there? Y'all
An
was
aha
there?
moment? Boy, there's a lot to discuss here. There's a lot of capitalism in there. And again, it's amazing to see. It's like, wow, that's where I learned a lot of that stuff from. It's like, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's like, I remember that phrase. Want me to start calling people? Alright. Kathy, what stood out to you?
I think I really appreciated the first question. Coaching or confronting is the loving thing to do. That stood out to me.
And what was another way to say it other than coaching? Like instead of confronting, it would be coaching and what? Do you remember?
It's coaching. I wrote down coaching or confronting.
What's another way to reframe confronting in our mind? Confrontation. Starts with a T. Telling.
I didn't write it down.
It's telling the truth. Because when we do not confront, it's not telling the truth. Confrontation is the most loving thing that we can do. Because you're coaching and you are telling the truth. And it is loving.
A lot of respect.
It does. It gains respect. We think it's going to create this division, and we're afraid that people will respect us less, or they'll love us less, or that we're afraid that we're going to lose something by confronting people. But in reality, that's actually one of the triggers of influence.
It's almost like, by dying you live, and by
So
giving you
what's
get.
the word I should have written then?
I'm not saying you should have written
No.
anything.
I put coaching
Telling the truth is what
telling
he
the
said.
truth. Okay.
Yeah.
T-E-L-L.
What the speaker said is that instead of thinking of it like confrontation, because confrontation has a bad rap, think of it like telling the truth.
T-R-U-T-H. Thank you.
If you get some wise person that takes advantage of people, and they certainly look at each other to take advantage, and if they throw out a lie and you don't correct that lie, then they're like, "Oh, here's one right here that I'll be able to get over. And they take advantage of you. Yeah. Hopefully not here, but, people are like that.
Okay, it's
And-
versus confront.
And whereas if you correct that lie and just think you're not confronting a person, you're just correcting that lie. It's not so scary.
Do you want to know the second thing that stood out to me?
Yes.
Respect.
Okay, it was a struggling team does not understand their vision. They're void of a vision.
So where there is no vision, the people what?
Perish.
They struggle.
Struggle, okay.
But that's true, they perish. Yeah, that's good. That's why. Whose responsibility is it to cast vision in an organization?
Mine. It's mine.
What do you say, Cameron?
Well, I would say it's the leader's responsibility.
I say it's mine.
What do you say, Kathy?
It's the leaders that have to.
So, Carmen, who are the leaders?
You're talking about here?
Yeah, here. I mean, we could put it there. It's the leader's responsibility to cast vision. So, who are the leaders here?
Who are the leaders here?
We are the. Is that a question?
Who?
Who?
You're like, we are the
I
leaders
think,
here?
I think everyone here is a leader in some respect.
Mm-hmm. What about these people? Are they leaders? The ones on our virtual team?
You mean which ones are leaders?
Well, hey, there's that one, and that one, and that one, and that one, and that one.
Are you saying they're all leaders?
Yeah.
They are.
Alright, so then let me ask this question again. If they are all leaders, whose responsibility in the ministry is it to cast vision?
It's mine.
It's the responsibility of everyone.
Everyone.
Yep.
Everything you guys said was right. It's her responsibility, it's the leaders, we're all leaders. It's everyone's responsibility to cast vision. There's not one man, woman, or child that is exempt from this responsibility. Because where there is no vision, people are perishing for eternity because we're not giving them vision that comes from God's Word.
That's like people don't know if you don't cast the vision.
That's right. And so we would all do well to become vision casters.
Visionaries.
Visionaries. We have a vision. We know why we're doing what we're doing, and we're going somewhere. And we're going with or without you, but we want you to come too. And it's like, we're just like, hey, this is where we're going. We're painting the picture of the future and what could be if we all work together towards it. And the more people who are casting vision, the more the mission moves forward. That was pretty cool. So what else? Did you have something else that stood out to you, Kathy?
And confront the root of the problem.
Yeah, I like
Confronting the root of the problem with love. Attacking the problem, not the person.
I like that too.
So that was my other aha.
That's good.
Okay.
What about you, Cameron? What stood out to you?
It's not directly on topic, but
That's right.
it was. Yes.
Yes?
It was one of the questions he answered at the beginning. One of the things that stood out to me is lead by example. And what this brings to mind is, whenever you see there's something you want to change, just thinking, like sitting there and thinking, man, I wish I would change, isn't going to do anything. Complaining isn't going to do anything. You got to lead by example. Like, for example, during worship. Sometimes when we sing, it's very like, how should I say it? Like, there's a lack of confidence in our singing, and we're all like quiet, or we don't even know what we're saying, kind of thing. And for some reason, I don't like that.
I don't think anyone likes it.
I don't even notice it.
But I'm sitting there, and complaining in my own mind that like, oh, we're all like, there's no reason to be shy here. But doing that isn't gonna fix anything. So from there, I decided that I would lead by example and at least try to sing loudly and confidently, and hopefully others will catch on.
Amen. Praise the Lord. And it makes a huge difference too. That's a lot of maturity too, to recognize that example in your life and seeing a place where you can step up and you can lead, because music is something that God has gifted you with and a talent you have, and you know how to play the piano. And when Tina done took off on us,
Yeah, she is.
it's like there's still like that discomfort, but like you stood up to the plate. You were blessed as you blessed others, and God blesses your skills because you're using it for His glory, for His service. And it's just like, yeah, it's really nice.
See how you are, Tina?
I would say that's like, yeah, that's on topic. That's just exactly what he was talking about. Leading by example. It's the best tool that we as leaders have, is our example. See how you are, Tina?
Mm-hmm.
Tina, what stood out to you?
Oh, hey, wait.
Oh,
there's
go ahead.
something else
Uh-huh.
that stood out to me is, how do you word this? It's that, like, as a leader, when you see that there's a problem, everything rises and falls on leadership. And so, there's something I really need to do is consider, what am I doing that can potentially be causing this problem? We gotta look at the root and confront the root. And so, yeah, it's just our responsibility as leaders.
That's so true. That's great. When you take ownership of everything that is in your life or not in your life, then you have no one else to blame.
And you have power.
Yeah, then you can actually do something about it. But there's like these depowering statements. As long as we're blaming, you can blame or you can take ownership, but you can't do both. And as long as we blame other people, or it's like I blame you guys for not doing something, then it's like, or it's like being disengaged in a meeting. Like what he was saying is like the first 8 leaders is like, well, these 3 people are disengaged because they are doing this, they are doing that, and then it's like as long as it's their fault, there's nothing I can do to help or aid or assist or whatever. I'm just like powerless.
You're at the mercy of them.
Yeah. But then, once I say, well, it's my responsibility as a leader, maybe I'm not aware of what's going on in their life, I should know about that. Maybe I haven't been engaging, I should change my format. Maybe I'm just drawing on. But it's just like, I could look at how can I change to help them to succeed. And it changes everything. It reminded me of being in the Garden of Eden. How Adam was like, it was the woman that you created. She made me eat of the fruit. And then the woman's like, it was the serpent that you created. So it's like blaming the serpent and blaming God. It's your fault, not mine. And it's like the same spirit. But as leaders, see, whenever you can replace leader with Christ. Christ-like. Or Christ-like character. If we have a Christ-like character, we take ownership, responsibility. Jesus, it wasn't even Jesus' fault, but He became sin for us. He was our sin bearer. He took complete responsibility of the sins of all of us.
Thank you, Lord.
And it's like when we're talking about reproducing the character of Christ, Christ was the greatest leader this world ever knew. It is Christ-like to be a leader. It is not Christ-like to be blaming. Yeah. And so that's really neat. Like that alone, like that concept, when you really just meditate on it, study it, and pray about it, and really like experience it in your life, and practice and try different things, it changes. It's a big changer.
Wow, it is.
Really is.
It's like, who answered that door and they were looking for taxes? Who was that?
Are you talking about Bill?
When he took the fish, the coin out of the fish.
Jesus?
No.
Jesus took a coin out of the fish's
Right.
mouth.
Why did he take that
Render
out?
to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. They're asking if he pays taxes.
And who was it that didn't somebody come knocking at the door to collect the taxes?
No, I think he was in public or something.
Huh. Okay.
You've got like all these interesting dynamics in some of your stories.
Well, it seemed to me like somebody came to the house to collect the taxes.
Okay.
And then he went to Jesus to see what to do or something.
Well, we'll have to relook at that. What about you, Tina? Did you, what stood out to you? Tina.
Can't hear you, Tina.
She's speaking.
What really stood out to me, Brother Connor mentioned everything rises and falls. That's pretty powerful. And often, like what he said, often the problem actually lies with you. Like if you're not satisfied with something, so many times the problem actually lies with you, and if you change, other people will change as well.
That's so true. That's why our first duty to God and to our fellow beings is that of self-development. When we change, God is glorified and others are served and blessed at a higher level. But it requires us to develop.
Yeah, it's not trying to change everyone else.
It's changing me. It's Christ in you, the hope of glory. Praise the Lord. And that's our purpose of creation, is to develop more and more to the image of Christ.
You know, when you're in a family and let's say there's like an alcoholic in the family, and they go out and they party and they come home and they cause ruckus, they fight and they're mean. Well, you have to change in order to deal with that person. But let's say that person gets a godly character all of a sudden, and they come home and they're all about God and stuff. The family has to change according to how that person changes. So when you change, the people around you will change.
That's
you
so
know,
true.
that's a drastic, example, but some people might think that they don't make a difference, but everybody makes a difference. It's kind of like a mobile. When you touch a mobile and all the pieces move,
That's so true. So what stood out to you, Mom?
There was a few things. I liked when he said, let's see, put that down. I liked when he was saying that the dysfunction won't drift into function.
That was powerful.
Yeah.
We don't
That's
drift
so
into
true.
a strong team.
Yeah, we can't
A
wish
functional
that
team.
it'll go away or get better. And then and that the people need to be strengthened. So I think it's really important when people fail that they know that there's hope and that you're willing to help them.
Yeah.
To overcome it. What really stood out is how I could have a responsibility in everything that happens.
Wow, that's
And
good.
those questions, how healthy is your team and why, and what qualities contributing to it, and try to zero in if they're competing or what's going on, and to ask the people on a scale from 1 to 10 where they feel they are. you know, how they're doing inside of the team. Oh, that was good.
Amen.
That was really good.
So, thank you everyone for your feedback. I appreciate it. I want to go a little faster because we got this to cover, but I would like to know what were the 5 traits of. I put the agenda on the board. We'll stop when we get through those. What were the 5 traits of a struggling team or of a healthy team? Does anyone remember one?
Wrong action?
Of a healthy team?
No confrontation?
Yes, avoids confrontation. We can do it of a struggling one.
Okay.
Casting the blame?
Avoid.
Don't know the vision?
Yes. Devoid of vision. And then you said avoids conflict. And then you said something about blame?
It says casting the blame. So
Okay.
Taking the opposite of taking responsibility.
Deflects responsibility.
Deflect.
What about you, Cameron? I haven't heard from you yet.
Lack of trust.
Ability. There's something deep on that. I do. You remind me. I want to go through something. Withholds trust. What else? We're missing one.
Vision, wrong action, no confrontation.
I must have been in some deep thought over there at that moment.
Why do you say that? You don't remember any of this?
Oh no.
It says productive confrontation, accepting responsibility, and positive something.
This is another thing.
Avoiding accountability.
Yes. Avoiding accountability. Yeah, I'm getting faster drawing on the board. That's cool. Probably the fastest I've drawn. Which isn't that fast, but not used to that. Alright, so these are the 5 traits of an unhealthy, struggling, weak team. So let's look on a scale of 1 to 10. What do you think our team is when it comes to this? And there's 2 ways we could do it. One, he suggested that we answer anonymously, but in all honesty, I don't know how to do that in this conversation.
Well, they can
So-
just do it in their mind.
Unless you guys have some well, no, it's part of the feedback.
Well, if we give 2 points to each number since it's 1 to 10.
Then you got 1 out of 20. That doesn't make any sense.
No, 1 out of 10.
Who
Because
gets
you got 1 to 5. So if it's scale 1 to 10,
Oh,
each one of those equal 2. 2 points.
but one of them might have a 1 to 10.
It might be a 9.
Yeah, we might be a 3 here. It's not quite
Oh, I
0,
see.
but it's not quite 10.
Mm-hmm.
But, does anyone have a suggestion how we can answer anonymously?
Yeah, in your mind.
That
Without,
still is not feedback.
well,
We need to discuss it.
It would be hard to in this
I think
situation.
it'd be hard
with
too.
these, if everybody was here in person and they could put a number in and just, pick it and without knowing, but that's not a possibility here. So
Okay, so then what I'd like to do is have some feedback. Tina, what do you think on a scale from 1 to 10? How strong is our team?
yeah, but she can't see our little 5 thing.
She doesn't need to see her 5 thing. She heard it. She's got a good mind. She's probably taking notes.
Okay.
And I'm choosing you because you have the greatest tendency to say, someone already took what I said.
Who cares? Who cares?
I know who cares.
No, I'm not taking notes. I'm kind of busy, but I can still talk. What?
So the question is, on a scale from 1 to 10, how strong would you say our team is? That would be a 10, or it would be weak, would be a 1. And this is where the confrontation is more of telling the truth, and is part of like coaching feedback. This is important, to be honest. And a weak team is number 1, devoid of vision. 2, deflects responsibility. 3, avoids accountability. 4, avoids conflict. And 5, withholds trust. Where would you say our team is as a whole?
Like, when you say our team, do you mean like the team that we're creating, or like just like us, or like you guys over here and like over there?
Like the core people,
So
volunteers.
let me ask, who, when we say team in the Army of Youth, who do we refer to? Who is on our team?
Okay, well, everyone's on our team. Everyone that we work with.
Would there be anyone we work with that we don't, that we outcast from our team?
No.
Okay.
Okay. Alright.
Good question. Thanks for asking.
I would say, like, if you would have asked me 2 weeks ago, my answer would have been different.
Well, okay. What is it now?
Probably, I would say maybe about 6 or 7. 6, 7, I'm not sure.
Is it 6 or 7? Which one?
Maybe like 6.
6. Okay. What would you have said a few weeks ago?
I probably would have said, well, I don't know, maybe it was because of me. I think it was, I know,
That's why I'm asking you.
we've been like a lot, like I've been a lot clearer on the vision and the direction that we're going, and like with creating this live team, I see a lot more of the vision, and I know, like for me, that really, really, really helps.
I'm asking you, what number would it have been a few weeks ago? We gotta move quickly. Don't overthink it.
4 or 5. No, 5? Probably 4. Yeah, I don't know.
Which one? 4 or 5? Which one?
My opinion probably is like.
I am only asking your opinion.
Okay, maybe go to 4
Okay.
or 5.
Awesome. Okay. Tina, which one? Choose one.
Okay, 4.
A 4.
But
That-
that's probably that's my problem though.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Question. Why did you rate it a 6?
Because we've been talking, because of what we've been going through with leadership, learning how to do things, like, and working with, like, casting the vision, and just moving forward, I definitely see the number, like, going higher and higher.
Okay, let me ask you a question. What would it take to get the number higher than a 6?
Communication.
Communication of what?
Talking to our members or everyone more frequently.
Okay. Thank you. What about you, Kamran? What number would you give it?
Give it a solid 5.
Solid 5. Okay. I'm glad there's something solid. Why would you give it a 5?
I give it a 5 because I'd give it a 5 on all 5 of those points. Because we have each of those things, but to a certain extent, and then it just kind of cuts off.
Okay. Can you give an example or two?
What does withhold trust?
Surmising, lack of communication. I mean, these are some symptoms. Trust, we're thinking someone's going to hurt us, or thinking someone doesn't care for us, or thinking that it's not a safe environment to speak up and to share our minds. These are all symptoms of withholding trust.
Yeah. So with that, it's a struggle for me mentally because I understand that it's a safe environment, but I don't feel like it is. For some reason, with certain individuals, I don't feel like free to say whatever I want.
You don't feel free to say whatever you want?
Or not whatever I want, but you know.
Yeah, to freely share what's on your mind.
I think some people don't like me.
Okay. It's honest. You're not the only person who feels like some people don't like them. So, what would it take to get that number higher in your eyes? Even just your answer is showing that you have some level of trust enough to communicate freely.
Yeah.
What would it take to get that number higher? Gave it a solid 5 in all areas. Neither hot nor cold.
Yep.
So Christ would spew us out of his mouth. You're lukewarm. How can we get higher as a team?
I don't know. I do know.
That's right. James 1:5.
But at least for me, something I could do is just tell the truth.
Telling the truth is always good.
Yeah. Just avoiding conflict.
That's good. But what about as a team? What could we do as a team?
I think we could get together and try to understand why there's a lack of communication in some areas.
Okay.
Try to get at the root of that problem.
All right. That sounds good. Appreciate that. Good. What about you, Kathy?
I think it's a 7.
I think it's a 7.
I do.
All right.
The reason I do is because as we weekly go over what our mission statement, our vision statement, as a team that we're growing, we're going to continue having that vision in front of us. And so, and I think the accountability, I think people are picking up their task and seeing their accountability, taking, I don't like the word pride, but taking ownership of their part, their role in the vision.
Okay, that's good. So, what do you see we would need to do in order to make that number higher?
Continuing, making sure everyone that's on board and sees the vision and the mission statement. Seeing the focus, the vision, and the why.
Okay. Thank you. What about you, Mom? What number would you give it?
I don't know, probably a 7.
7? Why?
Well, because I'm thinking that we're doing really good and we're just so much almost there. But I think that people lack confidence and maybe they need to be trained to be more of a leader. And when everybody's like got the same vision and the same motives and the same everything, I think it'll run like a well-oiled machine when that happens. But I don't think that's happened. And we have so many people to deal with to get there that when we get more of these people who understand it and is going that way, when new ones come on, it will be a lot easier and it'll change and it'll happen quicker.
How do you see that we can get more people to
Develop leaders?
yes?
How can we develop the leaders quicker, you mean?
I just mean, how can we implement what you suggested?
Well, I think with the core people, getting them to believe it and know it and to work that way.
To believe and know what?
That they're a leader and that this ministry is ours and not somebody else's. It's ours, and anything that has to do with the ministry is our responsibility. And once everybody feels that way, and not because you could tell how they feel because they go to you all the time instead of trying to figure it out, you know, or instead of like making a decision. So I think that once the core people get that, and then we're able to give it to the other people, and then when they understand it, when new people come on, it'll be more developed and able to run well, I think.
So what do you think I should put here in 2 words? 2 or 3?
Develop leaders. That's what we're doing anyway.
This is interesting.
Oh, hey, that brought to mind something that I wanted to share probably yesterday or the day before. But as far as a lot of people like skipping bypassing the org chart and going straight to you, have we made it clear in any way that there are like team leaders and these are the people that you should go to if you have any questions instead of going straight to you?
It's been really hard to get people to accept a team leader role. I asked Tina a few times, she's like, nope. And then Rebecca's like, and Kathy's like, no, I want to assist. And so most of the people that I've spoken to have not really accepted any leadership, anything. They're afraid of leadership.
Okay.
So, okay, cool. Praise the Lord. I'm really glad that we're able to discuss this. Boy, I wish that I wish that we started doing these leadership classes a lot sooner.
Yes. Can you tell us what you think it is?
I was trying to process that. I did the thing that I was afraid Tina would do.
Did you hear that, Tina? Laugh at him. Don't let him live it down.
You're funny, Mom. I hear. It looks like Tina's mic is moving, but is there any reason why we keep like turning her down?
Is she turned down?
I haven't said anything.
Oh, okay. I guess it was just Discord making your mic green.
I just unmuted myself and I guess it heard like some background noise.
Yeah. No, I understand. Devoid of vision, deflect responsibility, avoids accountability, avoids conflict, withholds trust. At the beginning, I was thinking 8, but like as I consider this, I think that there's quite a number of people that take responsibility. They enjoy what they do, and they do that well, what they know how to do. I do believe that there's quite a handful of people in our ministry that is avoiding conflict.
That's because they're Seventh-day Adventists.
No, it has nothing. Seventh-day Adventists do not avoid conflict, Mom. That's
So
false.
many of them do.
But that's your false belief system.
That's, yeah, I don't know if it's false.
But it's not a Seventh-day Adventist thing to avoid conflicts.
Are you sure?
I'm 100% positive.
I don't see a lot of people like that, except from Christianity.
Mom,
Oh,
it's inappropriate.
How is my thinking inappropriate?
Because
That's my belief system.
It's not
Just because
biblical.
you think of something different doesn't mean it's inappropriate. Might be wrong, but it's not inappropriate.
Well, I'm saying this right now, this conversation is inappropriate.
Well, whatever.
So, I believe a lot of the reason why people are avoiding conflict is because of the way that they were raised in their home. Their parents have a very intense environment, or their parental figures have created this culture growing up that has made it to where they could not openly speak. They were not able to share their mind, and if they did speak up, they would be ridiculed, or they would be like yelled at, or people would just it was just an incredibly not safe environment for people to communicate. And people are coming from all sorts of different non-Adventist backgrounds.
You're right.
And
Dysfunction.
I see that a lot of the dysfunction that we're dealing with is people hiding from conflict because of their childhood. Mm-hmm. And what that requires is coaching. And in order to overcome this, it requires love, and it requires
Understanding.
understanding, but it requires leaders who will create a culture of safety, of trust, communication, leaders who will lead by example, who will take responsibility of the people's care, and it requires these individuals who are avoiding conflict to love the person enough to realize, by telling them the truth, even if the truth conflicts with what they're doing, it's not attacking the person, it's attacking the behavior. And knowing that the person that you are coaching, they don't want to have unchristlike behavior. So it's loving to help them to develop, and it requires that. But
It requires a lot of faith.
Yes, which is what I was going to go to next. Is this is being avoided because there's a withholding of trust, and the trust is down because people don't trust themselves, people don't trust each other, and it's not necessarily because the people are trustworthy or that the environment isn't trustworthy, but it's because people are, again, they're dealing with preconceived ideas, backgrounds, experiences that causes them when trust is withholded, there is no communication. And I realized that a lot of these people were saying communication. You were saying to develop leaders, people taking ownership, right? I agree, and I believe that part of the reason why people are struggling here is because they're lacking their communication. And they're lacking their communication because they lack trust in speaking and thinking that, well, it's just the way that we're responding to certain people's reactions. Some people are afraid, they don't trust that reactions won't happen, or we have some belief that we hold about a conflict. So I say that we need to grow, but I would say we're at a 3. But it's really good because awareness will help us to know how we can improve and what we can do to move forward. And the reason why, and then like I said, those are the reasons why I say it's a 3. And I think what we can do to improve this is I think it's dynamic and there's multifaceted, but I think one thing that I could do to contribute to help a lot is to be consistent in daylight videos. I think those make a difference. I was communicating, thank you, Mom. It would help with onboarding communication and communicating vision. And that will be able to communicate vision at scale. Discussing why we don't communicate sounds like a really good suggestion. I would like to do that. Sounds very interesting. It's interesting how so many people were talking about communication. But I'll say that we definitely are improving our communication. That's been getting better and better. Kathy's been reaching out to people, adding them on Facebook, and Conrad's been reaching out to people. He's been doing his follow-up. And Tina has been communicating these videos, which I think videos are a powerful tool for communication because you can do it again and again and again and again. Even Rebecca was recording some videos. She's training, so they're developing as leaders, and that's very helpful. These systems. This is very interesting. So moving forward, we should probably discuss why that's there. What do you guys see as the weakest thing that we have, like, on our team?
Who's the weakest?
I'm the weakest, but what do you think is like the weakest trait of our team?
Communication.
Why is that funny?
Because that's what we realize we need to focus on. So
Okay.
that must be our weakest.
All right.
Good observation, Deborah.
What do you think causes the weakness?
The way they were raised.
To avoid conflict.
Their mindset.
It is, Tina, their mindset.
It's the mindset. And they're avoiding
Completely and
conflicts because of the mindset.
Completely and totally, yes.
So, what can we do to address the mindset?
The faculties of the mind. Focus
Affirm
on.
constantly those things that are good.
Yeah. Okay. Tina wants to affirm constantly things that are good. What else can we do to address the mindsets that avoids conflict and the mindset that
Learn how
avoids communication?
Jesus does it.
WWJD. What did Jesus do? Okay. What about you, Kamran? What do you see we could do to address the mindset that avoids conflict and communication?
Learn how to be bold for Jesus.
Be bold for Jesus! Oh, speaking of which, how many people, by a show of hands, has actually watched the Overcome Satanic Shyness course?
No, but I want to. I need to. I want to.
Does it count when you were there when you recorded it?
Were you there when I recorded it? Yeah, you were.
Yeah.
I was the one that was doing all that.
And Cameron wasn't there, right?
Right, I was not there.
So you weren't there when my voice sounded robotic, the red one that we were talking about. That was after you went to California.
Yeah.
That's right, and then Tina was recording. Okay, so Tina, let me tell you guys. When Christina went through that course, which Christina Smarts, she said of overcoming satanic shyness, this lies at the foundation of all of our problems. This course contains the answers that we are looking for. Everybody needs to know this.
Everybody ought to know.
She was like, this was life transforming for me.
Praise the Lord.
You gotta check out the Overcome Satanic Shyness course. Question, how do you access the Overcome Satanic Shyness course?
Go to the replay, the bonuses. It's the bonuses on the
Bonus.
walk with direction from God.
I'm just wanting to make sure people understand. But that's good. You're right, absolutely. Okay, as long as we know it's in our members area, in the members area of our school, I would highly recommend everybody check it out and take notes because it answers a lot of questions. I know I've preached a sermon before, but I've never explained it like this before. It was totally different. So that's good. And maybe we should get some of our more fearful folks to check it out too, that have been in the program for over a month, so they have access to it. Like Rebecca, maybe even Nikki. But Nikki doesn't want to log into the account.
Why not?
I have my thoughts. I don't know.
She's got her challenges.
What? You said address. Oh, Kathy, what do you see that we could do to address the mindset that causes people to avoid conflict in communication?
Address the mindset to avoid
No, the mindset that causes people to want to avoid conflict in communication.
What can we do to address?
Well, so look, we saw our
Got
weakest
it.
thing was communication.
Right?
The cause was avoiding conflicts or the mindset behind your communication. So the question is, what can we do to address that
it.
mindset?
I suppose doing a relevant devotion, a devotion on what's relevant, and doing a study on conflict.
You're studying conflict.
The opposite characters is what you want.
You know, there's quite a few podcasts on conflict. When I say quite a few, I mean like 4. There's like 4 of them that are extremely good to go through from Andy Stanley and Craig Rochelle that all deal with conflict and feedback, the art of giving feedback, the art of receiving feedback, how to handle criticism as a leader, how to confronting challenges. Those are the titles, and those are what changed me from being the avoiding, deflecting, just person where it's like I didn't want anything to do with conflicts and it created a lot of problems in my life, to realizing that it's a part of leadership and it's something that the best way we can serve people is by addressing the conflicts. Because I was never like that.
So the answer is, instead of avoiding conflicts, we address the conflicts.
Yeah, we gotta address them. And the way to address them is to change our mindset about the conflict. And I would really recommend listening to some podcasts on that.
Okay. Address conflict. And you said I'll know the names of those? I can tell what the names for the particular ones which are conflict? By podcast. One was Andy.
Yeah, Andy Stanley and Craig Rochelle.
Guy we just listened to, Craig.
Yep. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe they are on leadership training resources. Yep, they are. There's a bunch on the leadership training resources, the title of them, on Notion.
Notion I'm on. Leadership training.
Yeah, leadership training resources, and they have a tag that says feedback and confrontation. Those have been really life-changing. Tina, did you know that? On Notion, we have a table that's called Leadership Training Resources, and they have a list of the different topics by category.
No, I did not know that. I'll have to take a look at it, because I was kind of wondering, like, it's like a lot of these podcasts I need to listen to again to, like, actually, like, think about it and process it and implement it.
That's exactly right. Just process, implement, read, listen. So true. So it's called Leadership Training Resources on Notion.
Resources.
And you look at the tags, there's a bunch on feedback, which is what we need to give people. We need to give anyone new and anyone experienced or inexperienced people need feedback to grow. Experienced people need feedback to train. We all need feedback. And no organization can be healthy or have healthy communication without positive upward communication. Alright, well this is good. I think we covered good grounds. Is there any last statements or questions that y'all want to share?
What's that called? Leadership what?
Leadership Training Resources. Leadership Training Resources on Notion. That's the name of the table. Leadership Training Resources. And these are, I want to use this and just to share the quick backstory on this. I created this table so we can have a resource to give people as they're onboarding or places that we can point them in the right direction to show them what could be beneficial for them to go through and document our journey as we are going through this training so that new people who come on, they can participate with us through this experience as we're learning together. And they can see some of our notes. And honestly, every time that we're going over these, I'm taking notes in here, and we're using this as part of our discussion. The same way that we would take notes during a sprint meeting or a monthly meeting, it's a very similar format here. We got the date and the link and the notes inside, and takeaways and questions. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah.
Does it make sense to you, Kathy? You look perplexed.
I am, but
What are you perplexed
I know to go
about?
to Notion, but you also said it was on, you said it was in two different places, but it's on Notion. It has leadership training resources on Notion.
So what you do is if you go to Notion, the Notion, you'll find the name of the podcast. by category. And then with that name, and you get the end category. With that name, you will go to podcast app. And then you could listen to that. Does that make sense?
Go to Notion.
Go to Notion.
Go to leadership training
Yes.
resources.
And you'll find the podcast name and category. The category is feedback and confrontation.
Category. Okay.
It's called a tag. But I mean they're synonymous.
Okay.
You don't have to write down category, you write down tag.
I did.
Okay.
Tag THE.
But when you find the podcast name, then you go to your app and search for that name. When you find the name, which is called The Art of Inviting Feedback, then you go to the podcast app, you type in The Art of Inviting Feedback. Rather than going to the podcast app and just not knowing where to search and you see 70 different options, go here and it's organized. It has all of the apps from all the different people organized in one place. And so they just show you where you can find it. Does that make sense?
I'll try. I'm going to try.
Alright. Well, let's close with the word prayer. Who would like to pray for us? Alright, thanks, Mom.
Dear Lord, thank you for the day and the time that you've given us to learn things such as this, and how good it is to take a look at where we're at and where we're going and what's stopping us from getting there and what can be improved. And I thank you for that wisdom and for that guidance and the ability to be able to do that instead of just wandering around in life. Please be with each one of us. Help us to develop leaders. Help the leaders to be able to develop other leaders so that we could get your word out rapidly. Please be with us as we're growing the OKRs that we set up, and that we're able to communicate more effectively with each other and get the information out there and the feedback that we need to grow more rapidly so that more people can be reached, Lord. Please prepare the hearts and the minds of the people that's going to receive the information that we're sending out. And prepare our hearts and minds to put it together in a faithful way, the way Christ would do it if he was here. We love you. Forgive us for where we fall short. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord.
This is good. Learned a lot.
That was good.
I'm glad we did this.
We need to take pictures.
This is a whole lot more effective to do than listen to it by myself without the team.